Hi, I'm Ben, I like Kill Team, and I want to talk about it. Okay, so I am currently in the middle of building a few different kill teams, as I seem to always be doing, and a few different ideas and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But I thought the kill team that I'm currently working on would be a good opportunity to tackle a video idea that was submitted by Nightfall EDH. I'll put it somewhere here, where they asked that they would like to see a how to build a kill team from beginning to end. And so I take that to mean hobby side, list building side, some strat side, all that kind of stuff, right? How I think through building a kill team. I can't tell you the right way or the best way, but I can tell you and show you how I build my kill teams. So if you're interested in that, that's what we're doing today. What I find is that the teams that I want to play are the ones that I have really put the time into thinking about and kit bashing and customizing. Like, for example, I have a team of Assault Intercessors, actually the first team that I built for this, specifically for this edition of Kill Team. And Assault Intercessors are not awesome. Primaris are not awesome. But I find myself wanting to play them because they're my homebrew chapter. They're the Feral Tusks, right? I like them. I put some work into them. Whereas, let's say something like the Sisters of Battle Kill Team that I put together in the last video, it's just a stock Sisters. I kind of rushed building them. I put more time into the paint on that than the kit bashing, and I don't have that connection to them like I do to the teams that I put the time into. And I think that's the difference between having a kill team versus having your kill team. I like for my kill teams to feel like they're mine, like they belong to me. And so I'm going to show you in this video how I think through and put together a kill team. If that's not how you like to do things, if you prefer to just build out of what comes in the box and not even drill your gun barrels or clean up your mold lines, totally fine, right? If that's how you like to do it, whatever you get enjoyment out of. But I still think that even if you don't, we don't see eye to eye on my kill team versus a kill team thing, I still think you could get some value out of this and just the thinking through and building a kill team. So I'll shut up and let's go ahead and get into part one of how, I build my kill teams. Step one, pick a Flippin faction. Do you want to play an elite team or a horde? Maybe a flex team that's somewhere in the middle. If you're new, I would suggest playing a team with a low model count just for the sake of your own sanity. I really enjoy running elite teams because it's just easier on my little brain. But especially if you're new, I would recommend elite because if you're playing 10 to 14 models, 14, gosh, that just sounds like a nightmare. That's just a lot of special rules and weird synergies you have to be mindful of. So in this video, I'm going to be building an elite team because that's just kind of what I prefer to play. For this series, we'll be using Chaos or Traitor Space Marines. They're a strong elite faction, and they have a lot of really cool options, both for the tabletop, but also in the lore. If you're new to the game or to the hobby, my 2 cents here, for whatever it's worth, is, with Kill Team, you build a roster. You're allowed a 20-man roster to pull from. My advice would be, if you're new, to just build a legal team of whatever faction, right? We're looking at Chaos Space Marines, so that's going to be 6 models. And so in this video, I'm just going to show you the 6-man team that I'm building. In the next video, I'll show you the roster that I'm putting together. But in this video, we're just going to look at those 6 because I think, let's say you buy a box of 10 Chaos Marines or whatever, right? 6 is what is playable in a single team. Let's say you build 10 of them and you find out that, well, actually, I don't like the way I built these. So my advice would be to build what's legal, what's playable, learn what you like, what you don't like. Then you can go back to the hobby table and change things up and add, whatever your little hobby heart desires. So that's my advice. Step 2, inspiration. What's inspiring you about the hobby right now? Did you see something dope on Instagram? Or have you been listening to some cool lore while you paint? What new thing are you interested in trying out? Well, will you be kit bashing or building standard troops from the box? Whatever the answer to any of those may be, I think is totally fine. I just find that it helps to have an idea in mind when you're starting out. For me, what inspired this build were these 3D printed true scale Mark III bodies I found from a person named Bolterjugend on Instagram. They evoke this really gothic, medieval, knightly, almost stoic, sad vibe that really grabbed my attention. I'll have a link to his STLs and also his Instagram in the description of this video. I don't have a deal with him or anything. I bought everything that I printed. I'm just a really big fan of his work and think that more people need to see it. So I'll have that in the description below. Since this is Mark III Space Marine armor, I'm going to need some bits and some bolters and some weapons. So I went ahead and ordered the Mark III Space Marine box, which is a great kit with tons of cool bits and all that kind of stuff. And so with my 3D printed bodies and my Mark III Games Workshop kit, I was ready to start slapping stuff together. Now, I don't have any of the lore worked out for any of these guys yet, but I'm thinking that maybe they got lost in the warp, leaving the drop site massacre, and they just popped out, 10,000 years later, but it didn't. It was just almost like instant for them. And so here they are, all their trader buddies are dead, and there are Primaris Space Marines running around, and so I'm thinking maybe they hate Primaris, like they have a real grudge against Primaris. I don't know if that could be something. Anyways, I don't have it worked out yet, but I'm thinking about it as I'm ordering these parts and I'm looking at all this stuff, and it's kind of just spawning all these ideas, which for me, thinking about the hobby is almost as much fun as actually doing the hobby. So I don't have it worked out yet, but I am open to suggestions and names and anything you think for my trader boys. So let's keep moving. Before you start slapping your models together, look at the rules for your faction and decide on how you want to build your team. I'll be building a roster, so I have options to pull from depending on the matchup, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to start by building up a 6-model team. I'm going to take my own dang advice. Trader Space Marines are built up out of 2 3-man fire teams. And so your special operatives, besides your just standard warriors, you're going to have a gunner option, a heavy gunner option, an icon bearer, and then of course you're going to have a leader. So those are kind of your special operative choices. So let's look at our list. And again, we're just going to pick, start with 6, just one list, not to overwhelm anybody. And so I'm going to walk you through what I picked and why I picked it. Let's start with a gunner. I know that I'm always going to run a gunner no matter what. So the options are Flamer, Melta, Plasma, and you can leave the Flamer at home because maybe on a cultist, a Flamer is a good idea, but on a Space Marine, it's a total waste in my opinion. So that leaves me with Melta, which is so dope, and Plasma, which is also very dope. I went with Plasma because if this is my one list right now, eventually I'll have both on the roster. But if this is my first list, I'd rather have that range option instead of just the 6-inch with the Melta. So that's why I chose Plasma for this, and it's kind of better all around, even though Melta hits like a dang truck. Next up is the Heavy Gunner, and the options are Heavy Bolter and Missile Launcher. Again, both great options. I chose Missile Launcher. Now, I know a lot of people would go Heavy Bolter just because of Bolter Discipline, or whatever it's called for Chaos Marines. I just don't like building my list around stand and shoot twice. It's a good option, and it's super strong, but I would prefer my heavy weapon to kill in one go instead of having to shoot twice. Even though, I know you can shoot 2 different, people. I get it, right? It's super strong. I just don't like building my list around that, even though it's not a bad idea to do that. And also, what is the rule? It lets you split up your shots on a heavy bolter. Is it Fusillade? I think it's Fusillade. Blast is just better, in my opinion. Blast, any weapon that has a blast rule just eats chaff, right? Because if you're fighting someone who has a lot of models on the board, typically they're going to be bunched together sometimes, and you can punish them for doing that. So I'm going with Missile Launcher because you can kind of kill those chaff, or with AP you can take out some of those tougher units. So if I had to pick one, I'm going to pick the Missile Launcher just because I'd rather kill in one shot and then be able to be flexible with the other things that I do. But Heavy Bolter is just as good a choice in certain situations. So that's my opinion. And let me just say this because I know someone's going to say it, and they wouldn't be wrong to say this. There's a special equipment that you can give to your Heavy Bolter that'll bump it up to AP1 from Piercing 1 to AP1, which is really strong. And I can't fault you for that. I think it's a great build. Actually, my Red Corsairs team, I went with the Heavy Bolter, and I liked it. But in most cases, I would rather have the Missile Launcher. So I know before I get that comment, that is a killer thing to do. But I'm just doing something different. Okay, Icon Bearer. I know that I'll always have one in my list because it's just a better version of the Warrior data sheet. And if you can take one, you have to take one. Basically, it only makes sense. It gives you the buffs and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to run him with, you have two options. You can either give him a bolt pistol and a chainsword, which is cool because that gives you damage 4/5. But then, 6-inch range bolt pistol. I'm going to give him the bolter because I think my plan for him is I'm going to have him hang back and apply his reroll ability to probably my plasma gunner or something like that. And also, a cool thing about Trader Space Marines is they have like some of the best fists in the game. I think they have, it's like 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, doing 3-4 damage. That's pretty solid. And so if you, I just think for him the better option is the bolter. But if you want to give him a bolt pistol and chainsword because you want to have him to be a melee threat, do that too. It's totally cool, up to you. That's why I went bolter, just so that extra threat range, so he can hang back and give rerolls to one of my gunners. And this icon bearer is probably my favorite model in this team. Once I built him, it kind of informed the direction of the team. I was kind of going for more of like a Fallen Angels, like Dark Angels, like the Fallen kind of vibe, until I built this guy, and then I pivoted, and I was like, oh, whatever this is, I like this. And so I think I'm going to call him my Skull Priest or my Skull Shaman or something. I don't know, but he's just a pretty cool model. And then your leader. Every kill team has to have a leader, and the Chaos Space Marines Aspiring Champion, I think, is one of the best leader models in the entire compendium. I think absolutely, because not only does it just it's data, it has a cool data card and data sheet, whatever you call it. It has a great stats, but the equipment that you can give it just makes this thing a freaking monster. So I'm going with Aspiring Champion. Now I'm going to have, you have two options: Power Fist, Power Weapon. Both are different. The Power Fist hits harder, but it's going to hit on a 3. And the Power Weapon is going to be a little more reliable, a little less damage, but easier to crit on. It crits on a 5. It should be hitting on 2s. So I'll have both on my roster eventually, but I went with Power Weapon on this guy just because hitting on 2s, critting on 5s is so cool. And the cool thing about him as well is that his ranged weapons also hit on 2. A lot of sergeants or leader models will hit on 2s in melee or shooting, but not in both. But he hits on 2s for both natively, which is really cool. So I just like the idea of being super reliable, and also give him plasma. If your leader model can take plasma, give them plasma. If you don't, it's just, there's no good reason to, other than if you just don't like plasma for some reason, which I don't know why. You would just always plasma. If you can give a leader plasma, give them plasma. Okay? If that's the only thing you get from this video, good for you. And then to round out this kill team, you're going to need 2 Chaos Space Marine Warriors, which is your standard data sheet. Your little losers, but they're actually not losers. They're actually really great for a standard warrior profile. So I'm going to give one a bolter in fists, and the other one I'm going to give a chainsword and a bolt pistol, so I can have a little bit of an extra melee threat to pair with my Aspiring Champion or something like that. So those are my 2 little loser warriors, who are actually little beasts on the tabletop. After putting your models together, congratulations. Now you have the bones of your kill team. The next step will be painting them, which we'll cover in the next part of this series. Building this kill team is the most fun I've had in a while putting together a kill team. I think it's the mix of the new 3D printed components that I've never tried before that are super cool, and I just love the look of them, but also the just the lore behind them. And Chaos Space Marines are really cool, really good on the tabletop. So I've had a lot of fun with this, and this is probably going to be, I'm gonna guess, a 3-part series. I think it'll be a 3-part series. So if you're following along, congratulations, you have a kill team built. And you can start thinking about how you want to paint them. I don't know how I'm going to paint mine yet, honestly. So I hope you come back for part 2 of this. And as we continue to look at how I build my kill teams, and maybe you can gain some inspiration from them and how to build your own kill teams. All right, guys, that's going to do it for part 1 of how I build my kill teams. I can't give you the best way or even a good way, but I can give you my way. And so I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and commenting and liking and being so cool on the internet. I just plan to keep making videos and keep putting them out because you guys are so dope. So again, thanks for watching. It's super late. I'm going to get to bed, and I will see you around.